I think the biggest thing to me, as far as style of play and where the Knicks want to go, obviously the expectations, nobody's shying away from what those are. The Knicks made it within 2 wins of the NBA Finals, and then they fire their head coach. So the idea is we need to move past that and get to the finals. And the idea for how to do that is we need to get more out of our offense. We need to get more out of this collection of talent we've got. The Knicks finished 5th in the league in points scored per possession last year, but that a lot of that was front loaded. The beginning of the season, they were lights out.
Yeah, our over-under was 2.5, top 3 in the offensive rating. Remember, we did the whole offensive rating thing, and it was like, yes. Oh, obviously they're going to be top 3. We took the under it. Yeah. And they ended up at 5 because they just tailed off halfway through the year.
Yeah, and so the question is, like, how does Mike Brown get more out of this offense? And Mike Brown talked about that a lot. One big component of that is get Jalen Brunson off the ball more. Obviously, speed and pace, the things that Mike Brown, he sort of saw up close and personal what those looked like in Golden State when he was an assistant under Steve Kerr there on those championship teams. But then also when he went to Sacramento, we're going to jack the pace up. We're going to run. And it led to, the Kings breaking their playoff drought, having the best offense in the NBA. And the Knicks saw up close and personal just how damaging and devastating an up-tempo offense that runs constantly is when they were on the business end of it against the Pacers. And so the idea is, how do we bring some of that to New York? And the main idea here is it's going to have to be Jalen Brunson. It's going to have to be Jalen Brunson being willing to speed things up, being willing to get off the ball. Mike Brown framing it as, this is a way to make his life easier. Yeah, you got to be in great shape to play this way, but if we get you off the ball, you're not getting pounded as often by these defenders that are in your kitchen constantly. And if we get you moving around, coming off for easy catch and shoot looks, that's going to be a much cleaner thing for you than you having to create everything yourself. And so the as far as what that's going to look like, I think it's interesting that every player, it was Josh Hart was there, Karl-Anthony Towns spoke, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, and Mike Brown. Those were the presented to us media members on Media Day. All of them were like, we don't really know yet. Like, the players are saying, we got to learn Mike's principles. We got to see what it's going to look like in practice. Mike is saying, I got to see those guys on the court. I got to see them in live action in games to really get a better feel for how they're all going to fit into what we want to do. But the overarching thing that went across everybody is Jalen off the ball. How do we make it easier for him, and how do we get him off the ball more? He sounds comfortable with the idea. He's open to the idea of doing it. That to me is where the rubber's going to meet the road. It'll be fascinating to see what that looks like.
Are you optimistic?
I'm optimistic because Brunson, I mean, obviously it's media day, so everybody's going to say they're going to do whatever is in the best interest of the team. But Brunson was like, here is his quote on playing off ball more. Obviously, once we get started, we'll see how everything goes. But I'm very open to, honestly, anything right now because everything's new and I just want to win. I've always been in different roles throughout my career, even in college. When I lock in on the role and figure out how I'm going to be the best in it, I've done pretty well. So I'm going to try to keep that trend going. Like, he has obviously been one of the more ball-dominant players in the NBA over the course of his time in New York, and it's led to a lot of success for him individually and for the Knicks as a team. But he also, when he gets to the end of these seasons and they fall short, he is about as hard on himself and on the situation as anybody. He's unsentimental. It's like, we didn't accomplish the goal. That's it. Like, we fell short. So he has to look at it and, how do I get better? How do I become a better all-around player? How do I get us closer to where we need to be? I think there's reason to believe he looks at this and says, this makes sense. And once it makes sense to him, he'll go out and try to do it.
Yeah, it's such an extreme. Like, it's such an extreme what Jalen Brunson did with the ball last year in the playoffs, especially just the ball dominance that we saw in the regular season. Okay. But in the postseason, everything was on him to create. Like, you think that Luka and James Harden pound the rock, like dribble the air out of the ball? They had in the postseason last year, Luka Doncic had 407 dribbles per game. James Harden, 417 dribbles per game. Jalen Brunson, 550.
Wow.
Dribbles
That's
per game.
A lot of dribble.
400 for Harden and Luka Doncic, and 550 for Jalen Brunson. Now, it's not to say that you can't succeed doing that. Like, we saw Shai Gilgeous-Alexander win the title while also being kind of Jalen Brunson-esque with how much everything is on his shoulders, dribbling and trying to create and get downhill. But when you're at that size of Jalen Brunson, I just feel like it's not sustainable to be able to do that. And NBA careers are not linear. Like, the road to becoming an NBA champion usually has some ups and downs, and then you figure things out and you realize, like LeBron James had to realize, oh, I do need to play at the four more with my back to the basket in order to unlock certain things. I don't have to do everything for the Miami Heat in order for me to win a championship. Same thing here is like you go through and the trials and tribulations of trying to get through and breaking through with the New York Knicks, trying to win a championship. I do think this is a good thing for the Knicks, is to bring in Mike Brown to lessen the load 550 times a game that he's dribbling the air out of the ball. That is extreme. I mean, all right, another thing on that. De'Aaron Fox in 2023 in the postseason under Mike Brown, 392 dribbles per game. So like 40% less than what we're seeing Jalen Brunson. So hopefully we'll see Mike Brown be able to kind of lessen the load for Jalen.
And to your point, you talk about the Thunder. Like, when did the Thunder sort of pull away or things change for them offensively in the NBA Finals? It's when SGA threw the ball to J-Dub and said, like, I'm going to get off it. I'm going to set screens for you, and then we're going to operate out of that. I'm going to trust you to bring the ball up the floor. What made the Pacers so difficult to guard so often is that Haliburton would get off it and get it over to Andrew Nembhard and let him initiate while he's running around and using the gravity of his shot making, the threat of him being able to make something happen off the ball, or like pull a defender away and say, you're going to get to go 4-on-4. We've seen it time and again with Stephen Curry, where Karl-Anthony Towns mentioned that like his first thought in terms of what this offense could look like or what the way it could operate might be a little bit more like off-ball screening. So like you're getting Brunson running around, kind of slingshotting around screens to be able to catch against a scrambled defense with some more space in the way that Steph does. And so obviously if that's the way this all results, that'd be a pretty beautiful outcome for the Knicks. But that idea of you have this talent, you've got other people that can do stuff with the ball. Let's let them do it. Now, I think the interesting thing is Jalen Brunson sort of took exception to the idea that he's always had the ball in his hands, because obviously when he was in Dallas, there was Luka, but there's no Luka here, right? Mikal Bridges is good. He's not Luka Doncic. He's not, I mean, is he Andrew Nembhard? Is he Jalen Williams? I don't know. But OG Anunoby can do something with the ball. He's not those guys. Karl-Anthony Towns can do stuff with the ball. He doesn't operate quite the same as like Domantas Sabonis did, right? So it's not exactly like one-to-one analogies for how these other systems or indications are going to work, but there's opportunity to experiment and explore and find some new pathways here if you got the buy-in, if you have the willingness to do it. Day one sounded like people were open to it and on board for it. Yep. And now remains.
Hope springs eternal at media day for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see Cat being in kind of a Sabonis role as, I don't know, more of a hub and being able to leverage some of his shooting and passing and Jokic Sabonis type thing? Or he said he was a lights out shooter and the lights went out. What happened?
That's right. Yeah. Again, the trust of the media here for the Knicks is like pretty much right after Cat sat down to start his media session, the lights went out as he was in the middle of an answer. And then he made a quick joke and, thankfully the lights came back on and we moved from there. But I think that's certainly a skill set that Mike Brown can tap into. Cat can be a little adventurous when he's operating from the high post. Some of the like over the head hook kind of passes that, sometimes they find their target and sometimes they find, Spike in the front row. So it's that can be an adventure, but I think that's the general idea. You brought in these talented players who can do more than one thing. Yes, Mikal Bridges can park in the corner and be a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. OG Anunoby can do that. Those guys can run in transition. Karl-Anthony Towns can screen and pop, right? All these guys have ability, but they also have other talents. And so the question is, if having Jalen Brunson do a little bit less can allow the Knicks to get more out of all of the rest of those guys and the Jordan Clarksons and the Deuce McBrides and the Gershon Yabuselis and whichever other, the other veterans that wind up sticking on the roster. They just brought in Malcolm Brogdon and brought back Landry Shamet, and we'll see. It's possible that Brunson being willing to like loosen up a little bit, give it up to get it back, can open things up for everybody else. And then maybe you do see that like upper tier, top 5, top 4, top 3 kind of offense that you're hoping for. And if the Knicks can get that while maintaining some of the defensive principles that they had under Tom Thibodeau in this ramshackle, shuffled up East, they might actually be able to meet those sky high expectations.
There was a weird exchange, real quick. This whole like, did Karl-Anthony Towns get a procedure surgery on his knee and he denied it? It's a very nebulous word, procedure. So I can understand why he would be confused on what the report was. But can you explain what the back and forth here was? Because it's all over my social media right now.
Yeah, Stephen Bondy of the New York Post asked Karl, so you had, like a finger and a knee procedure during the offseason, and Towns immediately was like, whoa, don't put any words out there that are like, I did not have any, I didn't have surgery on my finger. I didn't have surgery on my knee. Like none of that happened. And that kind of led to it was a little testy in the moment. And no, I didn't get no finger surgery nor knee surgery. And then Bondy said, well, procedure then, not surgery, procedure. No, I did not have any. Where are you hearing this? You came on Media Day to come and put that out here? And he says,
which, yeah, that's our job. Like,
right,
we haven't seen you guys in months. So, yes, I'm going to ask you about this. Anyway, go on.
And Bondy said, listen, it was out there. Like, this is out there. And Karl said, who? Who put it out there? And then he made a joke, Centel, like NBA Centel, the parody account. But then Bondy said, I think ESPN reported it. And us in the room, I think as we're all like, I will admit personally, I didn't remember the story right away, but it came up as sort of burbling like, oh yeah, Ramona Shelburne did write a story after the end of the Knicks season that was about Karl Towns having procedures on his fingers and knees. He was treated for knee and finger injuries. And so that became a semantic argument. After the end of Cat's session, we moved on different questions. And then Bondy went up to him with his phone and held his phone up. And I didn't see what was on the phone, but I'm assuming that he was showing him Ramona's story that said source, Karl-Anthony Towns treated for knee and finger injuries. And then Towns said that doesn't even say procedure. And so then it's, I don't know. It's who's on first, right? It's what do the words mean and how do they, but
he read the first line of the report. It was New York Knicks center Karl-Anthony Towns has undergone treatment on his bruised left knee. So he's like, I didn't even see, it doesn't even say procedure, and then walks off. But fourth graph, it says Towns had the injuries re-examined and chose to immediately have procedures so you would have the most time possible to recover before next season. So I've been covering player health for a while. Procedures and treatments are a very wide net of what that actually is. If you've been covering Joel Embiid, you know that these things could mean a lot. It doesn't mean a full-blown microfracture surgery on his knee, right? We all saw how he was limping around in that series against Indiana. Something was up, and they talked about it, that he's fighting through this left knee injury. So the idea that he's being incredulous that he could ever have had any sort of procedure or treatment on his left knee after this report from Ramona Shelburne, granted, this was in May when this happened. It's been, right. So Ramona's report was June 4th. Okay. So during the NBA finals, that was 3 months ago, almost 4 months ago. But it could be an injection, a PRP injection or something like that, where they're trying to kind of, figure out how to relieve some of the swelling or try to alleviate some of the pain, inflammation. It doesn't necessarily mean the capital S surgery.
Right.
So I understand why players are sensitive about their bodies and the HIPAA laws and all that stuff. And it's a thing that is a touchy subject for a lot of these athletes. But to get at the media for asking about his knee injury that he was clearly laboring through in the Pacers series, I don't think it's over the line to suggest that or ask about that. And then when you pull up the receipts, hey, here's the report. I just felt for some reason he was being evasive about that, and it was, I don't know. I think Stephon was doing his job. Is hey, you're hurting in the postseason. It was a very noticeable thing. Did you address it? And there was a report about a procedure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Knicks team, obviously, again, we're just wrapping it up here, they have the expectation here is they are going to fill that power vacuum at the top of the East. It's them and the Cavs, and one of those teams is going to go to the NBA Finals. They believe it's going to be them. They believe that they have the opportunity, the talent there, and with Mike Brown and the fresh coat of paint. That's the idea. Any setbacks, any health issues, any lingering questions, those are even more magnified when those are the stakes you're playing for. So I understand Towns maybe being reticent to say yes on that, but it's a valid question. It's a reasonable thing to follow up on. The main takeaway is apparently he's feeling fine. And then Josh Hart has a lingering ring finger issue that he's like, I don't know, maybe it's going to turn into surgery. The more he kept talking and looking over at Derek Lipinski, the Knicks PR chief, he kept saying, I think Derek's about to strangle me for talking more about this. Josh Hart's ring finger on his shooting hand is going to be something to keep an eye on, everybody. He might have a splint on it and playing through it, which he says he hates things on his hand. That's not a great thing to hear. We'll see. But of all the things that the Knicks have to sort of figure out heading into the season, health, they would hope, is not going to be one of them. In Karl-Anthony Towns' case, maybe it's not, semantics aside. In Josh Hart's case, maybe it will be, and much more to be revealed on those two fronts.
Did they wish you a happy birthday? Did they give you cake?
They didn't. Chris Herring was really apologetic today. That he's like, I didn't know. I'm so sorry I didn't know it was your birthday. I'm like, Chris, you're expected to know a lot of things. You're not expected to know that. That's totally fine.
Yeah, heart of gold, Chris Herring. So
absolutely, 100%.
A genuine, he would probably really felt bad about not saying happy birthday.
Which is really
Chris.
funny.
All right, that's going to do it for us this week on The Big Number. Happy birthday again, Dan. The Knicks, it's going to continue to be one of the biggest stories in the league is how they're going to get the most out of this offense under Mike Brown. I just think that it's going to be better for them if that number of 550 can go way down for Jalen Brunson come playoff time.